Thank you, everyone. So our first panel began with a focus on the United States, and now we're going to shift gears and we're going to talk about Israel. And this panel focuses really on the nuts and bolts, on the question. Can everyone hear me? If you'd all please sit down, we're going to begin now. Thank you. So we're going to look at nuts and bolts topics, things like how much energy potentially is there in Israel. And we're going to talk about both natural gas and oil. How feasible is it to extract the energy? What are the advantages and the risks here? What are the challenges in doing it the right way? And I think it should be obvious, but I will simply say that the economic advantages of energy development could be extremely, extremely significant for the state of Israel. Basically, when you import something, these are resources that leak out of the country, and if instead you can produce it domestically, that is inherently an economic advantage. But I do think it's more than that. And one way to see that is some of the interesting research that has been done within the United States. So, for example, you probably know, but if you don't know, I'll tell you, the state with the lowest unemployment rate in the United States is, does anyone know?
North Dakota.
North Dakota, exactly. In fact, in North Dakota, if you're Starbucks and you want to hire someone to make coffee, you actually have to pay them about $25 an hour, which is extremely high. And the reason is that there's so much economic activity happening in North Dakota associated with the energy development that it creates opportunities for everyone in the state, including people who have nothing directly to do with the industry. But there's a better study, more scientific, which comes out of Pennsylvania. And my colleague, Professor Gerard, mentioned to you that New York, our home state, does not allow unconventional energy development in New York. In Pennsylvania, the neighboring state, they do. It's actually all part of the same Marcellus shale. And so what some people did in Pennsylvania is they made two categories of the counties in Pennsylvania. There's one set, which are the counties that have 100 or more natural gas wells, 100 or more. And the other classification are counties with little or no drilling. And they looked at the number of jobs either created or lost over a 5-year period from 2007 until 2011. This is as the conventional natural gas boom in the U.S. was just getting going. And what they found is that in the counties without drilling, the total number of jobs in those counties declined by 3% a year, on average every year for 5 years. So you go from 100 to 85. There's a 15% decline. Very same time, in the counties that had at least 100 wells, was a 7% increase in jobs on average every year for 5 years. So if you start at 100 in both places, 5 years later, 85, 135. This is significant, and I suppose it is possible that the same sort of effect could happen in Israel. There are also geopolitical advantages. It's certainly better when you can, not to depend on other countries for a resource, particularly when some of the suppliers do not have a close and friendly relationship with you. And indeed, if it's something that you can use to try to influence people and to develop closer ties with countries that could be helpful, well, that's useful. And obviously, the private sector plays an essential role in either making this happen or not. But there also are aspects of government policy that are relevant, and it's important to do it the right way if we do it. So there are questions about how to tax this activity, how to keep the infrastructure secure, perhaps a particular issue in a country that has people who want to destroy things, sadly we know. There are also environmental issues that need to be addressed. There are questions about what the right export markets are, what the infrastructure needs to be to bring these issues to market. My friend Michael Gerard mentioned it about the environment, which is my particular interest as well. I've spent a lot of time thinking about the right way to regulate this stuff. My own view is that many of these risks are quite old and very well understood. For those of you who know what well casings are, this is the concrete and steel that surrounds a well. As long as it's set properly, that gets you a very long way towards making sure this is safe and won't affect water. And the point is, this is not rocket science. We know how to do this. And so I do think that it's important to do it the right way, and that, in my opinion, it certainly can be done. But we have a lot of ground to cover, and we are so fortunate to have two extremely distinguished panelists, and so it's my privilege to introduce them both now, Gideon Tadmor and Vinegar. What I'll ask each to do is to speak for about 15 minutes. Then that'll leave some time. I'm going to pose some questions to them, and we'll also open it up to all of you. So let's begin with Mr. Tadmor. Gideon is truly one of the founding fathers of energy development in Israel. For the past 15 years, he served as chairman of Delek Drilling and CEO of Avner Oil Exploration. He led the successful development of the Yam Tethys project, which was Israel's first producing natural gas reservoir. It was discovered in 2000. He's been leading the development of Tamar, which has been producing for the last year or two and will supply the majority of Israel's natural gas needs for the next 20 years. And Gideon is also working on the development of Leviathan, a much larger field, which has the potential to transform Israel into a significant export hub. By the way, I'm a former law school dean. Gideon is a lawyer, so I have a particular fondness for lawyers, though he's not a practicing lawyer.
Don't hold it against me.
Exactly. And he's also a major in the IDF. Our second speaker will be Professor Harold Vinegar. Harold is the chief scientist for Israeli Energy Initiatives. He's also a professor of petroleum geosciences at Ben-Gurion University in the Negev, and he's co-director of the BGU Petroleum and Environmental Research Center. He has a PhD in physics from Harvard, and more importantly to me, a BA in physics from my school, Columbia. Harold made I.E.I. after he retired from Royal Dutch Shell, where he served as the chief scientist for physics. He has over 50 publications and over 300 patents, and we are extremely fortunate to have both of them with us, so please join me in welcoming Gideon Tadmor and Harold Vinegar.